Well, what do you know, ladies and gentlemen? It seems like IGN is walking back their 9 out of 10 glowing review for Dragon Age the Veilguard. Now, let's be real, ladies and gentlemen. When we look at IGN reviews, does anybody take them seriously? Do you take them seriously? Because I know I don't take them seriously. I would imagine that most of the gaming industry doesn't take IGN's reviews seriously, or most gamers, I should say, don't take it seriously. So when we all saw that 9 out of 10, you knew and I knew that this was a massive shill moment for a video game that we all saw glowing reviews coming. I think everybody knew that. But the fact of the matter is, IGN is going to go where the wind blows. That's how these shills do, right? Like, if they feel like they have a moment to maximum shill with minimal backlash, then they're going to do it. But ultimately, this game ended up being a massive flop to the point where now even IGN has to walk back their 9 out of 10 review.
Howdy do, fellow kids.
What?
Now, we have an article here from SmashJT.com with a headline that reads, IGN caught walking back their 9 out of 10 Dragon Age the Veilguard review. It now identifies as a 7 out of 10, which is hilarious to me. So again, ladies and gentlemen, apparently we have a new article from IGN that SmashJT is going to go over for us, and we're going to read it together, where apparently they are walking back the review and they are admitting that the game has glaring issues. And for a game that has glaring issues, then it's literally impossible for it to be a 9 out of 10. If it is a 9 out of 10 with glaring issues, then you have to imagine that your review was made ideologically, which we already knew it was, considering the person that reviewed it was a trans person, obviously. So let's get into this article from SmashJT.com. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it, and like the video to push us out into that YouTube algorithm. So it says, as BioWare's Dragon Age the Veilguard drunkenly stumbles its way into the spotlight, it's become painfully clear that IGN's initial glowing review of a 9 out of 10 that was criticized by myself and many other gamers out there was just as we suspected, more of a marketing ploy than any kind of honest assessment. As is often the case, IGN appeared eager to help boost the game with early praise, purposely giving the game to their own reviewer who conveniently identifies as a trans person. Now again, I want to be very clear. There is such a thing as conflict of interest, right? And this is a prime example of what conflict of interest looks like when it plays out on screen for everybody to see. This is no different than a judge, presiding over the case of his own children. You know what I mean? Like, it is clearly a conflict of interest when you have a person who is ideologically driven, like this creature, writing a review from a game that's ideologically driven, right? You're going to have a trans person write a review for a game that is all about trans people. It is very obvious that the conflict of interest is there, and there's going to be little to no honesty about the video game. It is going to be quite simply, hey, this game is amazing because I can see myself in it. That's literally what half of the review was when you even watched the review in the first place, which we did, so we know. Then it says that AKA a dude that dresses up and cosplays as a woman due to serious mental illness issues is being rewarded in society for being so stunning and brave. Now, Leonard Hafer below is what this creature was formerly, TJ Hafer. Now, why do this? Access Media, my friends, out of sheer loyalty to their longtime partners at BioWare. But now, even IGN themselves can't ignore the game's glaring flaws, and they're slowly beginning to shift their tone, not so subtly hinting that the Veilguard sales numbers are actually abysmal as the game itself. Now, they recently released this article, and this is a screen cap from the article with a headline that reads, Dragon Age the Veilguard is at war within itself. The sequel to Inquisition's Dreadwolf story is trapped in an action game with no interest in the past. This article very clearly is a different tone compared to the 9 out of 10 glowing review that they just released 2 weeks ago. And this is what I'm talking about, because if you actually reviewed the game, if you played the game, if you actually spent time within the game, which I'm sure the reviewer was supposed to do, then you would have known about these issues before you released your review. You would have known about all of them, right? Every single issue that the game is facing, you would have known, but you are purposely choosing to ignore said issues because you could put trans scars on your character. That is why you're doing that. And then on top of that, again, let's be real, Hafer above is somebody who wants to see this kind of stuff in video games. So the moment he sees this kind of stuff, he's immediately going to give it a praising review simply because it has it. Then IGN's latest article by Matt Purslow, titled Dragon Age Veilguard is at war within itself, reveals the serious cracks in the game's foundation that should not have been overlooked, while carefully avoiding the harsher criticism fans have been shouting from the rooftops. Behind all the fluff, there's a strong acknowledgement that the Veilguard is an awkward, conflicted game, one that's torn between trying to please longtime fans and catering to a new audience with shallow action-based approach. As IGN tiptoes through the tulips around the game's core issues, it's evident that they're preparing to distance themselves from the game they once hyped up as a potential Game of the Year candidate, and let's be honest, will still be considered for Game of the Year because stunning and brave. Now again, I want to be very clear. I've said this many times before. This game will absolutely be nominated or, in my opinion, win Game of the Year simply because of what it tries to push as the message. The message is the most important thing to these journalists. The message is the most important thing to the gaming industry, and they are going to want to prop it up as the winner of said message, not winner of Game of the Year, because let's be real, they don't care about that. It's winner of the message, and this game is absolutely going to be the winner, in my opinion. I can't think of any other game that will probably win, but again, anything could happen, obviously. Then a Vanity project gone wrong. One of the most baffling decisions behind the Veilguard is the direction of the game itself, which seems more like a vanity project for the game's trans director Corin Bush below than a continuation of Dragon Age's established lore. Yes, yet another person LARPing as a woman, but in reality suffering from severe mental illness that society in general has unfortunately allowed to perpetuate. This is nothing to be excited about. Now again, ladies and gentlemen, we have talked about Corin Bush in the past, and it's very clear that this game was made with his ideology in mind. He wanted to push this as much as possible, just like he did it in The Sims when he worked on that game and added trans guards to the game. So this is something that is a continuing pattern for Mr. Corin Bush. But at the end of the day, Corin Bush is going to do what they're hired to do, which is push activism in the game that they're hired to direct. Everybody knows at BioWare that if you hire Corin Bush, you better expect some trans ideology in the game, because it's literally impossible for them to do anything otherwise. They're going to push this stuff, and BioWare knew that. So I'm not going to care if BioWare gets the repercussions of said actions, because they already knew what was going to happen in the first place. Many fans have noted that the narrative seems focused on highlighting ideological themes and pushing a trans narrative rather than delivering any kind of actual coherent story. Instead of following up as the storyline set by Inquisition and the Trespasser DLC, the Veilguard pushes aside many beloved characters and settings in favor of a disconnected plot that feels at best like a soft reboot and at worst like a deliberate dismissal of the choices players made throughout the series. Now, I said this before, and I'll say it again. It was very obvious that they didn't care about the previous games. That's not even something that's my opinion. That's a fact based off what the developers have actually said about the previous games. They didn't want any connection to the previous games. They didn't want you thinking about it. They didn't want it even relevant. Sure, they added some characters from the previous games, but every single one of those characters gets sidelined, right? Solus gets sidelined in your own mind. Varric gets sidelined in a bed for the majority of the game after he gets taken out in the beginning by Solus. It's literally the sideline main character quest, and everything else has to do with your buttfuck buddies in the Veilguard that, by the way, they never once mentioned the term Veilguard to my knowledge. So you have a game called Dragon Age the Veilguard, but I hear the word Dreadwolf more than I do Veilguard. That's how much it's obvious that they did a last-minute pivot to try to make this about some sort of weird Baldur's Gate 3 wannabe fantasy instead of actually delivering on a continued story from Inquisition. So ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, Veilguard, as we know, is a massive failure. And even if this game hits 1 million in sales in terms of units, it doesn't matter. The game needs 3 to 5 million units in sales to even get close to breaking even, let alone talking about a profit. And it's very clear that they're going to lose money on this ideological project that we all saw flopping at the end of the day. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you did enjoy it. If you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate if you get to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.